Hi, sixth graders. I am sorry I am not with you again today on Friday. Happy Friday to you all. We're going to start talking about wonder and do some vocabulary. Right now, the things you need out are your wonder book, and you also need out your vocab notebook and a pencil. Please make sure you have all those things. And we're going to start with some vocabulary. We are going to skip the vocabulary, writing it down for part 4 and part 5 in your notebook. You're not going to be tested on that. I sent you the vocabulary words so you can look at them if you're wondering what a word meant. But I will not test you on that. But we will be tested on part 6 vocab. So let's start with that. Pull out your notebook, and the first 2 words I want you to write down for part 6 are molecule, meaning the smallest unit in an element or a compound, and then the word audiology, which is the study of hearing disorders. And teachers who are with them, you are welcome to pause this while they are writing these down. So I have a picture for you of each of these. So molecules, that would be like the oxygen molecule that makes up H2O, or the hydrogen molecule within H2O. And then the picture below here, you can see an audiologist, which is the doctor who knows about audiology. If you've ever had a hearing test done, like if you ever had tubes when you were younger, you probably had a hearing test done by an audiologist. Your next 2 words are bionic, which is something that we all wish we have. Superhuman strength or ability, using electronic parts to help humans performing a task. For sure, so many movies have people with bionic parts in them. And then the next word is pronounced taciturn. Everyone say taciturn. Taciturn is a person who's quiet or reserved. They hold back from joining in conversation. There are many of you in this classroom who are not taciturn, but there are some of you who are taciturn. I have pictures of these for you as well. So the first one, we have a person with a bionic arm. How cool is that? And then at the bottom, I loved this little picture of a person who would be taciturn. And sometimes you might be more taciturn with certain people, like your parents ask you how school was at the end of the day, and you're like, I don't want to talk about it, because you already talked the whole day, and you just are like, I need some space right now. So you might be taciturn in certain situations. And then your next word is ovation. So this would be in a public performance when at the end of it, there's big, everyone is cheering, a public reception of a person, and shown by loud and long applause. Maybe you've had that after a performance that you've been a part of. And here's a picture of a whole crowd standing and cheering at the end of a performance for someone. The next word is not one that you have to write down, but just one I want you to know. August is going to get hearing aids in part 6 of the book, and he says that his hearing aids make him look like Lobot from Star Wars, and we know August loves Star Wars. If you don't know Star Wars, that makes no sense to you. So I just wanted you to see a picture of what Lobot looks like. So when he describes his hearing aids as Lobot hearing aids, you can see that. Now, what I'd like for you to do is I want you to stand up, go find your reading partner, and you need to share your responses and make connections between your responses. Go through your book, talk about the spots that you marked. Teacher in the room, if you can walk around and check for their responses to make sure they're done. If you don't have your response done, I will be looking for your email to me and to your parents. So go talk with your partner about your thoughts right now. Now, if you haven't talked about it yet, why do you think this part was written in all lowercase? What's a reason for that? Some people think Justin's artistic. Some people think it's to show he's different. Talk with your partner. What do you think? Now, yesterday I asked you to think about this question. How is Justin like Grands? Check out the bottom of page 203, the very last couple paragraphs there, and talk with your partner how Justin and Grands are alike. If you haven't discussed it, maybe your class already discussed it as a whole group, but the part with the machine gun is so funny on page 199. Talk about that part with the class right now. Why is that such a funny part for the machine gun? And now this is a really important part to notice, and maybe your class already discussed this. So Justin said he has tics, and tics would mean that he has things that he can't control. I have a cousin who has a tic, and when he's talking, his mouth just twitches. He'll be talking, and one side of his mouth just twitches out all of a sudden, and then it comes back in, and then it twitches out. And he can't control it. His mouth just does that. That's just his tic. And when he's nervous, it happens even more. If he had to speak in front of a large group, his his tic would come out more. If any of you have ever watched the show The Middle, Brick on The Middle has tics. Sometimes Brick whispers under his breath. Sometimes Brick does his little whoop thing where he tips his head back and says that, and he doesn't have control over them. Some people have something called Tourette's syndrome, and when you have Tourette's, you have tics that you don't have control over. But in this part, Justin talks about how he's had tics, and at first they're more pronounced, but then on page 192 at the end, it's so important to note that after his time with Olivia's family, or Via's family, that his tics have stopped. I also want you to discuss as a class, if you haven't already, how Justin's family is different than Olivia or Via's family. Okay, we're in the month of March. It says that their performance is in March. And I love this precept for this month in March. Kind words do not cost much, yet they accomplish much. Talk about that with your partner right now. What an awesome precept. Oh, this should say part 6, Miranda's part, instead of part 5. I apologize. And I really made a mistake. It's not Miranda's part. It's August's part next. So we're going to go back to August. I apologize that I made a mistake on that. So on August's part, you are going to read about his perspective again. What's something you want to find out from this next part that we read? Oh, and I made a mistake. We don't need that page. All right, this weekend's homework, you are going to read part 6. So you get to read August part again. So read part 6 and then write your response to part 6. And your reading log is due on Monday, just like always, and I'm sure you have plenty of minutes on it. Right now, go ahead and go back to your seat, and the teacher in the room is going to pass out a blue paper about pictocharts right now. So you need out a pencil still, and keep your Wonder Book out. We're going to use that, and the teacher's going to pass out the pictochart sheet. So let's talk about some things on Pictochart. So the assignment says that you're going to be creating your Pictochart. Remember, this is your test over the book. We're not doing a test. You're creating this digital poster about it. To show important pieces of the book, you're going to decorate it however you want. And we will work on it more in class next week as well as today. And you will need to work on it some outside of class. You can go to the Mac lab after school any day if you do not have something besides an iPad, because remember, it doesn't work on your iPad well. And you're going to present it in class starting Monday, November 23rd. So here are all the things that you need to have on your Pictochart. You can see that I have 7 different bullet points of the things that need to be included on a Pictochart. And then down at the bottom, you can see how it's being graded. It tells you how much each item is worth in points. And you do have a small part of your grade as you're presenting it to the class. So some of these things we are going to talk about next week. Maybe you want to put a little star next to it. The first one that says a quote that shows the point of view of the novel, don't worry about doing that today. We'll talk about that next week. And then we also are going to talk about identity next week, which that is the 4th bullet point down. So you will do that next week, draw a little star. You don't need to worry about working on that today. So then the other things that we're going to talk about the second bullet point in just a minute. You are going to include the third bullet point says you need to have your favorite quote from the novel that you believe is important and why. This one can't be a precept. No, I don't know if you've noticed 3 times it says all quotes must have page numbers. So you're going to decide from the entire novel, you have all these post-it notes in there, which quote is your favorite? Why is that your favorite quote? Then skipping down to the fifth bullet point, you're going to put your favorite precept from your novel and what you think that precept means. On your paper right now, please write down that the precepts can all be found on page 311 in the book. If you flip to the back of your book right now, do you see how all the precepts that Mr. Brown says are listed in there? Okay, then the sixth one says you are going to answer the question, how can spreading kindness to others affect people around you? You need to find proof in the book that shows how somebody spreads kindness and that affects other people. And then the last one is you're going to write your own precept. This isn't anything new. This is the same precept you're doing on your Wonder artwork. Just put the precept in your presentation here as well. So same precept on your Wonder artwork and in your Piktochart. So you're going to work on all those things in the computer lab today, or not all of them, but you're going to get started. Right now though, can you please turn your blue paper over about the Piktochart assignment. And on the back of the Piktochart, we're going to talk about dynamic and static characters right now. I want you to write this down. So a static character is a character who stays the same throughout the book. The way they act is always the same. A dynamic character is a character who changes during the events of the book. Write that down right now. Your teacher can pause this. Let's talk about some examples from Bridge to Terabithia of static and dynamic characters. So when I think of what characters always acted the same way, these 3 came to mind for me. First, Leslie. Leslie was always fun-loving. We don't take into account that she died. Obviously, that is a change. But as a character, while she was alive, the whole time through the story, Leslie always acted the same. She was positive. She was fun. She always wanted adventure. She wasn't scared of things. Always, through the whole book, Leslie acted like that. Jess's sisters are pretty similar through the whole book too, especially his older ones. Even when Leslie dies, they still don't really show Jess a lot of emotion. They're just kind of mean older sisters the whole time. And then, of course, Miss Bessie the cow. She didn't change. She's a cow, but she was the same throughout the whole book as well. There were a lot of characters who did change during the book, though. So if we think about those, Jess's dad totally changed from the beginning to the end, right? At the beginning, he was not loving to Jess. He didn't interact with Jess. But then at the end, he helps Jess with his chores. He listens to Jess. He's such a different dad. Of course, I put Jess sideways because Jess changed the most through the book. Jess went from being scared of everything to being able to have adventures and to building a bridge on his own. His imagination grew. His ability to be in Terabithia grew. All of that changed for Jess. Janice Avery changed. Remember at the beginning how she was such a bully? But after her conversation with Leslie, her heart softened a little bit and she was more caring to Jess. Remember, she even beat up a kid who said, at the end when Gary Fulcher is rude to Jess and Janice Avery beats him up, that shows how much she changes. Even though she is still being a bully by beating someone up, at least she's sticking up for not just herself. And then Jess's teacher, Mrs. Myers, she was so tough and harsh through the whole story until right at the end. When Jess came back to school, she softened. So she was a dynamic character. So right now, you are going to go to the computer lab to work on your Piktochart. Remember, this time you are going to sign in through Google. So go to Piktochart and then click to sign in through Google. And then keep working on your one that you already made. When you go over to the computer lab today, you need to take 3 things with you. You need your Wonder book, your Piktochart paper, and your pencil. Right now, everybody grab those 3 things, your Wonder book, your PictoChart paper, and your pencil. All right, have fun working on your PictoCharts, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye.